my horror-loving dudes, I'm Killjoy Jake, and today we're going to be talking about Scream 7. Is this movie in shambles? Let's get into it.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Well, after that dramatic opening, let's get right on into the news. Jeff Snyder from the Hot Mic podcast recently heard a rumor that he shared with the public about how Jenna Ortega might not be in Scream 7. His co-host, John Roku? I'm so sorry, man. I'm horrible at pronouncing things if you're watching this. He made a really good point about how you gotta wait for Jenna Ortega. I mean, there were entire legions of teenagers who went to go see that movie just for Jenna Ortega. It would almost be ludicrous to not do the next movie without Jenna Ortega. It would be the Neve Campbell thing all over again, but maybe even worse. She might not be the main focus of the story, but she's a huge rising star right now. I would latch onto that for as long as you possibly can. But between all of that malarkey and also Radio Silence being rumored not to direct the next film, what's going on with Scream 7? Is this movie completely Here's what I'm thinking about all this, because right now, there's a lot of not very great things going on right now. They haven't even announced Scream 7 yet, even though Scream 6 absolutely decimated the box office, making way more money than the previous entry. Scream 6 made almost $170 million at the box office, which is roughly $30 million more than Scream 2022 from the previous year. So, yeah, a Scream 7 is gonna happen. You know how we were talking about Final Destination the other day, and how the Final Destination made a big sum of money, and then Final Destination 5 made $30 million less? Well, this is the exact opposite. So instead of not making a Final Destination 6 right after that, what they should do with Scream is make Scream 7 right now, while it's hot. And I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, well, Jake, let's wait. Let's hang on a bit and then make the movie in a couple of years. People are still going to be around for it. Well, here's the thing about that. The Scream franchise technically hasn't been hot since the year 2000. Scream 4 failed to bring this franchise back all the way back in 2011 when they tried to do this once before. It really is a shame because I think Scream 4 is arguably the best sequel. It's a killer movie. I don't know why it didn't stick with audiences that well. But Scream is poppin' right now. Even some of the other IPs that are very Scream influenced are popping as well. I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting a reboot. Final Destination 6 is finally happening with Guy Busick, who's one of the writers from Screams 5 and Scream 6. It's heaven on earth right now for us 90s babies. It's awesome. So what's gonna happen if we wait too long? Is there still gonna be hype for Scream? Will Final Destination 6 and the new I Know What You Did Last Summer film, will they be good? And will they carry that same flavor of horror along for enough time for us to wait for Scream 7? I don't know. So listen, Scream 7 doesn't need to come out next year. That doesn't need to happen. But the announcement should come relatively soon. And they gotta get their ducks in a row before that happens. We gotta figure out what's going on with Radio Silence. We gotta figure out if we're doing the Core 4 again or not. So what happens in the scenario where we don't follow the Core 4 again, where Radio Silence doesn't do the next Scream movie? Maybe it's Christopher Landon or some other director. Here's my thing about the franchise moving forward. I love every single entry of this franchise. I think every single one brings something really fresh and entertaining to the table that I love. I'll watch these movies for the rest of my life. All 6 of them are a blast. But that's no happy accident. I would say that every single entry of the Scream franchise is so fresh and fun because they bring something new to the table in every single entry. So by that logic, what if Christopher Landon does take over Scream 7 and writes a whole new story with a brand new set of characters who are dealing with a ghostface killer? While that might seem blasphemous to you, let's take a look back at Screams 5 and 6 for a moment. I love Sidney Prescott. I think she is one of the best final girls of all time, but she didn't really do all that much in Scream 5. I absolutely love Scream 5, but it's a very busy movie. There's a lot happening, so much so to the point where we have to sacrifice the development of new characters to focus on some of the older characters. So would it really be that bad if we did an entire new Scream movie without any legacy characters, brand new cast, and a new Ghostface killer? I don't think it would be all that bad. The opposite of that is also true though, where you could just make a movie about the legacy characters again and bam, there you go. The big thing we need to avoid if we're gonna do another clean slate film is just not make it so busy like Scream 2022. Like I said, I love that film, but it would be improved if it didn't have 100 characters, 100 storylines all trying to come together and mesh. It was a hard task to get done, and honestly, I applaud the writers and the directors of that film for making it work as well as it does. The other thing with that too is we needed to do that for Scream 5. You needed to have the legacy characters in there. It would have been a little weird without them. So back in 2022, that wasn't wasn't an option. You needed that sense of familiarity to bring your longtime fans in, while also having a brand new cast to bring in new fans. But now that Scream is popping, I would argue that it's a little looser. Like, you can do a little more with this concept, make it a little crazier than it's ever been before. Let's take a look at Scream 6. It barely features the legacy characters. Kirby comes back from Scream 4, but that's a little different. Gale Weathers is really the only returning character that's been in every single movie in Scream 6. And, well, she doesn't really do much with the plot. In fact, another big criticism I have of the recent Scream movies is I don't love how they handled Gale's character. While I do love Gale Weathers as a character, would it have been better if she just wasn't in the movie and her arc ended with 5, where she's gonna write this wonderful book about Dewbert? I just like to call him that, old Dewdrop. What a guy, what a fella. Here's the thing about all this though. This conversation is completely obsolete if Radio Silence announces in like a month, oh hey, we're back for Scream 7 in 2025. It's gonna be a blast. Core 4 is coming back, maybe Gale Sidney's coming back. Cool, hell yeah, man, that's awesome. That's the best case scenario. But I'm preparing for the worst here in this video. And if there's one big point to be made about another continuation that's a clean slate, brand new story, brand new characters, is that's not really that bad of a thing. We've technically already kind of seen this film. I mean, remove Gale Weathers from the Scream 6 storyline and you pretty much have the same story and outcome. There's really only two things that Gale brings to the storyline plot-wise in Scream 6, and that's that she wrote the book on Richie and Amber when she said she wasn't gonna do that, and then she also shows them the Ghostface shrine. But here's the thing about both of those two things. You could have completely eliminated the book element from this and the whole story would have worked. Like, think about like Sam looking at her phone and like scrolling through Reddit and Twitter and all that and just seeing like Richie being like glorified, like he was innocent, oh man, Sam Carpenter's the Ghostface. That did everything you already needed to do in that story. You didn't need the whole book thing. It was really cool, and I love that we got that whole scene in front of the police station with Gale. I'm not complaining about that, but plot-wise, didn't really affect the story. Richie's family later in the movie also expressed how they started that rumor about Sam, so it would have happened anyways without the book. And then she shows our characters the Ghostface shrine, but I would argue that it would have made a little more sense if that was Kirby Reed, who was keeping tabs on the Ghostface killers from the opening scene. That was their shrine after all. It would have made sense if Kirby was the one to be like, oh, I did a little research and I found where their shrine was. So you could have completely written her out of the story. I would argue that Screams 5 and 6 set up this franchise to go on forever with some of the ideas that they set up, and it's so fascinating to me. Like, the idea that all these killers online can get together and talk to each other about how they want to kill their friends, why they want to do it. It's almost like a commentary on the internet and how if you have this crazy idea, you can get validated by going online and talking to other people who may have the same idea. That doesn't mean it's right, but that does give some people this false sense of validation, which could lead to more Ghostface killers forever. That concept is so interesting to me, and I think that's why I love Scream 6 so much, is because they briefly touched on that. But you can make an entire, like, arc for a new character just simply about that. That can affect people all over the world. I would be absolutely thrilled if we got a movie with Gale Weathers, Sidney Prescott, Kirby Reed again. That would be fantastic. I love all those characters so much. Any living character who still wants to come back, sure. What's Dwayne Martin and Patrick Dempsey doing? Get them in a new Scream movie. That would be a blast. But the point I want to make with this video is that it wouldn't be the worst case scenario if we just had a clean slate film with brand new characters and a new Ghostface killer running around a new town somewhere. It could be London, Florida, Alaska, who cares? You could do it anywhere. Anywhere with an internet connection would work for me personally. No matter how they approach Scream 7, who's directing it, who's gonna be in it, whatever, I'm just excited for it. I think this concept is so killer and it could lead to a great franchise that goes on for a long time. There's not too many of those. So what do you think about all this news? Do you think the Scream franchise could go on forever? Do you want to see Jenna Ortega and Radio Silence back on Scream 7, or are you interested in seeing new people tackle the same IP? Leave me something about it in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new Scream 7 video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to support this channel further, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.